Welcome back to another vlog. As you might have seen in my previous video last weekend, I rode my bicycle from London to Liverpool in a single day, and it took a bit out of me. So a week on, I thought I would do a bit of a roundup video and dig into all of the questions that you asked, because I got a few. Before I dig in, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to every single one of you who watched the video, because it kicked off a little bit. It has reached 40,000 views in less than a week, which makes it my most ever viewed video, which I'm really pleased about. It's had loads and loads of likes, and most importantly, loads and loads of comments. The most common of comments was people telling me that St Helens isn't Liverpool. Now, I'm very aware of this, but I feel like London to St Helens wouldn't have had quite the same ring to it as a title. And bear with me, because St Helens is only 10k or so away from Liverpool. So I feel like I deserve that one, even if it is a little bit cheeky. So let's get into a few of the stats. Obviously, I uploaded the ride onto Strava. I will place a link, as I did in the last video, with the URL to that activity profile. So if you want to, you can go and have a look at all my little stats. But let me just list a few now. So I named the ride self-explanatory because do I need to explain exactly what that was? It's fairly obvious, right? So 355.03 kilometers. Took me 12 hours and 20 minutes, so that makes an average moving speed of 28.8, which I think is not bad considering I had around 3,000 meters, just under, of climbing throughout the day, most of which coming up and over Stoke. Bit of a surprise, that one. Now, Strava has predicted my average watts to be around 163 average, which is not very high whatsoever, but a solid, I guess, just below zone 1 zone. And it says that I burned over 8,000 calories, which is pretty impressive. I didn't get any KOMs along the way, pretty unsurprisingly considering all that weight I was carrying, but I did get a 6th place, Tutbury to Oxeter. Honestly, looking back, I was quite surprised with just how well I handled the distance. Obviously 12.5 hours in the saddle is a long time, but it really wasn't until the last couple of hours where I started to get a little bit fed up and a little bit sore. And as I said in the video, it wasn't actually my muscles that hurt, it was more the joints. And specifically, my feet started to ache in the last couple of hours. I wouldn't say that's necessarily down to any errors or anything that I did wrong or my setup or anything. It's just purely down to the fact that I spent 12.5 hours riding my bike. So obviously for this one, the bike that I used was my Ribble Endurance SLR carbon road bike with disc brakes. I actually made a video that reviewed that bike a couple of weeks ago. I'll link that video if you want to check out the bike in a bit more detail. But alongside that bicycle, obviously I had quite a lot of equipment to bring up with me. Not just the filming equipment, but I had to bring enough stuff to sustain me for a couple of days once I arrived. So the combination of bags that I used was a Apidura frame bag, this one to be exact, which just sits along the top tube. And for this one, I put my drone, my anchor charging block, and cables, and generally just a few things that I wanted easy access to. So this one you can actually unzip as you're going along. It's waterproof. It's the one that I used in Vietnam. It's fantastic, and America in fact. So yeah, this one doesn't weigh too much even when you pack it out fully, because it's not a massive amount of space, but just perfect. You can still gain access to your water bottles if you have the small ones, and if you have a side mounted bottle cages as well. So in addition to my bar bag here, I also use this, which is the Tail Fin Aero Pack, which as you can see has a carbon wing. I've talked about this in previous videos, but this is fantastic. It means that I can carry a whole lot of stuff on the rear end of the bike, which is where you can put the most weight. This one is fully waterproof, and it means that I can carry as much as I need without it wobbling or have any of the traits that most rear packs have. So the route itself, lots of people ask exactly how I did the route, and I talked about this a little bit on the video itself, but I used a website called ridewithgps.com where it allows you to enter your starting postcode and your destination, and then it plots a route in between the two. However, the route that it plotted me was not the most direct route, nor the most easy when I got to each town. It kind of sent me the long way round, or it sent me onto little bike paths that I didn't want to be on. So definitely big thanks to Dan, who managed to plot me a route to Milton Keynes, which was absolutely perfect, and it meant that the roads that I were on were really, really nice. So the worst bit of the trip, there weren't too many bad points, but I'd say the lowest point was when I looked at my Garmin, having done 200 kilometers, and it still said almost 160 to go. That was quite hard to deal with. As you can imagine, 160k still to go when you've done that many hours in the saddle is a little bit hard mentally. The best part was definitely when I was within touching distance, around 30k to go, I ordered a Just Eat and takeout to my destination, and then raced the delivery man there. He beat me very slightly, but yeah, the chippy delivered. I really did need that food at the end of a long day. So for this one, as you would have seen, I used my Wahoo Element, and for the navigation I had turn-by-turn instructions, which was really good. It never let me down, other than the actual route itself sending me around the edges of towns. But yeah, I did have to charge this thing about halfway, because it does use a lot of energy when it is giving you instructions constantly for 12.5 hours. But yeah, a bit of charge in it, and it lasted me all the way up. No complaints. So in terms of the logistics, I always travel on these kind of trips with an Anker power charge unit, which means that I can charge my phone or any device as and when I need to, and it's just really a must to get you out of any sticky situations, just in case your battery does die. Obviously, I was very lucky to have friends such as Sarah come out onto the route and share some food with me, because stopping for food or anything like that would have added a lot of time. So big shout out to those people who made the logistical side of a whole lot easier. So in future, if I was to do it again, anything that I would change is probably the route itself. Slightly frustrating to be going around the edges of towns and adding a little bit of distance on. So if I wasn't so lazy, I would have spent a little bit more time plotting the route turn by turn and getting it just right. The only other thing that I do is to use my time throughout the day a little bit more efficient. Even though I left at 5:45 in the morning, throughout the day I did have almost 3 hours of stoppage time, which was probably a little bit overkill, and meant that I didn't get to my destination until around 9:30 or 10 at night, just as it was starting to get dark. So yeah. So in terms of mechanicals, I was very lucky during that ride that I didn't have any mechanicals, mostly in part to my Ribble bicycle being serviced pretty regularly. But the one problem that I did have was the puncture I had pretty early on. Now, I had a lot of questions in the comments about exactly why I changed the tyre when that happened. And the reason why was because I had those Vittoria Corsa tyres on that bicycle since the start of February, or the end of February, which has meant that I'd already put a few months of riding, almost 5,000 kilometers into those tyres already. And that one, the rear one, certainly needed changing. So nutrition itself, obviously, goes without saying, for such a long ride, you need to eat a hell of a lot. So outside having a big meal the night before, during the ride itself, I've completely avoided energy bars, energy gels, and carbohydrate drink. Really sticking to real food, such as sandwiches, bananas, flapjacks, cookies, cashews. I really struggle personally with that kind of energy, that sticky stuff. Really just too much sugar. So yeah, sticking to real food really did help me kind of have a bit more of a normal day, stay fueled up. And then I did have a whole load of sugary drinks, so I stuck to Lucozade pretty much from the halfway point. I had a lot of Lucozade to keep the sugar levels high and to get me through to the end of the day. I wouldn't say throughout the day I ate more than 3,000, maybe 3,500 calories. Obviously I burnt close to 8,000. I don't know how accurate that is exactly without wearing a heart rate monitor, but the deficit is pretty big, which obviously I made the most of in the following days. So in terms of filming itself, obviously I carried this camera, my Sony a7 Mark III, around with me on all of these kind of trips. I had that strapped to my back, but I also carried with me my drone in the top controller bag, and also my laptop in the sleeve, which smartly attaches to my tail fin. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully I covered your question, or at least gave you a little bit more insight into that ride, as I know I left a lot of things unexplained. Also, I know that this weekend is the summer solstice, so I feel like a lot of you have gone out and done your own version of my ride, or at least made the most of riding your bike. So let me know if you did do a really cool adventure, exactly what you did in the comments. And also in the comments, you can share with me what you think I should do next. Perhaps another crazy trip that you think I should do, but nothing too crazy. But as usual guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.